Hello, we are back. How are you guys? Lindsay, hi, how are you, my beautiful girl?
Oh, I'm so good. I'm happy to be here with you. How are
Mm,
you doing today?
so happy. So happy to be here with you. It's always great. So, Lindsay and I were just talking like we always do pre-game, our pre-game warm up, right? And just figure out what we want to talk with you guys about. And we were talking about doors. And I was telling Lindsay, we just got back from an appointment and I've been to this place 100 times, so I should know the drill, right? But the door on the out, it's one of these big heavy glass doors with the handle, and it clearly says push. I can read, I'm pretty good, did very well on the vocabulary English portion of the SATs. Yet every time I go, I pull. I'm trying to pull the door, and the woman's just kind of looking at me like, what? So today I'm like really present, and I look and I'm like, push. And it was great. And then when you're on the inside and you're leaving, it says pull. And I was like, wow, now this sounds really simple, but I'm making this into a much bigger thing. So I was telling Lindsay, I was like, I think this speaks volumes about so much stuff that's going on in all of our lives. Push, pull, reading the signs, looking at what's going on, being aware. Linz, I'm going to throw it at you. What do you have to say about this?
Well, it's so funny because when you mentioned this to me earlier, it just made me think that literally yesterday, Sean, my partner, and I were talking about how funny it is that throughout our relationship, he'll walk towards doors that he'll go and like turn the handle or he'll push or pull or whatever, and he's like, "Oh, it's locked. They're closed. We can't get in." And I'm like, "Well, let's try it one more time." And when I do it, it just like opens seamlessly. And we did that the other day. We were walking to the grocery store and there was this like side entrance to the grocery store. And he was like, "Oh no, like the grocery store is closed for this evening." And I was like, "Well, let me try." And then we like walked right in. And we always laugh about that because, Sean's always the one who is opening cans for me and is fixing stuff around the house, is always like doing the heavy lifting. But there's something about certain doorways that he is like, because I have it in my mind, then I'm not going to be able to open it. Almost like there's this fear of, what if it's closed? What if I can't open the door? Then that's what his body ends up feeling, resistance on the door, and just thinks that it's locked.
Yeah.
Whereas I have the mindset of like, I'm pretty sure this door is going to open for me. So it opens. And it's just so interesting to look at that on a metaphorical level. So it just didn't seem like an accident that this was something that happened to you, Maggie, and this was something Sean and I were talking about yesterday. And the place that I want to start with today that's resonating for me, and you let me know how it's resonating for you, but when you said you just started out the podcast today by saying like, we want to talk about this door, all of a sudden it clicked for me that doors represent opportunities, right? And new beginnings in many ways. So we can choose to stay on this side of the door, or we can choose to move through the door and be on the other side of it. So it's interesting to notice when we're at the precipice of a new beginning or an opportunity, or we're feeling some kind of calling to step through some kind of doorway, whether it's metaphorical or like a physical doorway, like walking into a new job or walking into a new home or walking into a new relationship, or whatever it's going to be, that we kind of get to choose and decide at any point along the process, what kind of mindset are we going to have about it going into it? Are we going to be present and feel into the energy of that opportunity? Like you said, you were able to be present with the door and you're like, okay, push. Like I'm walking in now,
Yeah. And it was so easy.
Yeah, exactly.
When you push it, because the door is designed, you can pull it all you want, my friend. Not going to open that way. It's just totally dawning on me how crazy good this all is, right?
Yeah.
Like it's so, when you read the room, read the signs, listen to your body, follow the universe, when you're in flow, it's pretty darn great.
Yeah.
But I feel like I've been and that's where this gets much bigger. First of all, I want to add a little levity before we get into this heavy stuff. The opening of the jars and stuff. I don't know if you guys are finding this, but I'm not that old, but I can't open anything. It's like they are designing these packages so that by the time you open it, you're so tired you can't eat whatever's in there.
Oh, 100%.
And you've burned off so many calories that you're exhausted.
Or they child-proof something, and then I can't open that, and I'm like, am I also a child? Are they proofing me from this?
No, but the jar, and then like and then all this organics. I was trying to open something where it's like an arugula, and I'm telling you, you need a PhD to do this. Like it's just or a chainsaw. Anyway, that's a topic for another day. But now it's just dawning on me with this whole push-pull thing, and I realize what I've been doing in so many think, and I love what you said was so beautiful when you said, and I just automatically, I feel like that door is just going to magically open for me, which I think is an attitude that you carry through your life, which is the beauty that you're putting out there. That's an amazing way to be. And I know Sean a little bit, obviously not as well as you, but I kind of feel like he and Chris come from this mindset of the door is not going to open. There's always, like, I know that Chris comes sometimes, he's just so pragmatic and he's like, well, it's just not going to, and I'm like, yeah, it is. But now what I'm realizing with the push-pull thing is I feel like I've been pushing in some areas of my life with some relationships that are just not going to open. It's just not going to work. Thoughts?
Well, it's interesting just saying, like, reading the signs, like literally reading the sign on the door that says push or pull. But I feel like that on a larger level in life is like, are you reading the signs that life is giving you? And not just like, sometimes signs are glaringly obvious, but sometimes they're extremely subtle. Like signs can be repeating numbers on the clock, like 1111, or they can be a butterfly or a cardinal, or they can be an ambulance going by and just a siren coming in at the time that you have like a particular thought or whatever it is. But it's not really about the sign you're receiving. It's about the feeling you have as that sign is kind of like occurring, because a sign can be anything. It really can. It's more of the feeling we have on the inside. So to that degree, talking about subtler signs, sometimes a sign is just a feeling from our intuition of maybe I should, like with relationships, for example, maybe there's subtle feelings of like, maybe I should back off a little bit, or maybe I should just give this some space. So even though that feeling is there, our minds can come in and be like, well, but if I give this relationship some space, then the conflict isn't going to get fixed. Or if I give this relationship some space, this person will think that I don't care about them, or, X, Y, and Z. Our mind can come through with these fears. And so we try to control the flow, right? Which can, we're pushing when we should be pulling. And I think this is something that we all do. I know, like, raise your hand if you do it. I definitely do it. And it's just part of being a human being. But that's one of the reasons why I'm so fascinated with energy, paying attention to my own energy, paying attention to the energy of others, paying attention to the energy of a room.
Yeah. Reading the signs, reading the room. You feel it. You feel it in your body. No. I know when I'm trying to pull that door, I feel it. I'm like, it's not working. It's not working. It's not working.
Yeah.
And so again, we're going back to the metaphorical thing. And then what about when you have those wonderful doors that just shoot open? Like when you're just getting within the, when you get within the zone of it, right? I feel like, again, that's when everything, again, you get me.
Totally.
That's when everything's working.
Yeah.
That's when everything's working.
I will bring in an analogy that I think will kind of like illuminate what we're talking about here. But so Sean and I decided that we were going to move about a month and a half, 2 months ago. We decided we were going to move homes. And there were so many things that needed to go right in order for us to get a new home. So one was we had a certain price in mind that we didn't want to go above. So we had to find a 3-bedroom place, because Sean and I both work at home. So we need 1 bedroom for us to sleep in and then 2 bedrooms for offices for both of us. We had to find a 3-bedroom place that was in this specific budget. So that was already a little bit specific. Then we had the budget, or our lease. We didn't want to sign a year-long lease. We needed like a 9 or 10-month lease. And a lot of places don't let you do that, especially living in New York. It would be like nobody would let you do that. So we were already like, okay, how are we going to find a 9 or 10-month lease? Then there were just like some other things that factored in. So also the time we wanted to move, there's a very specific time that we needed to move, which wasn't at the beginning of the month. It was in the middle of a month. Most places don't let you do that either. So there were all these really specific things. But I just had this gut feeling that the time was right to move now. And Sean had the same feeling, but Sean and I went back and forth on, at first I was like, I don't think this is going to be possible. Like, I don't even think we should try. And Sean kept being like, no, we should try. Like, well,
so he was being the door is going to open and you weren't.
Yeah, exactly. So he said, let's just try it. Like, let's keep an open mind. Like, let's try it. And I'm like, okay. So we started trying it and we looked at some places that didn't really work out. But then I was on like Sean's energy wave where I was like, okay, yeah, this is going to happen for us. Like, we're going to make this happen. And So then we looked and we found this place that I'm now living in. Spoiler alert, we ended up moving in. But we walked in here and there was just this feeling of it had everything we wanted. I really like modern homes. So I like living in a new place with new appliances so that we don't have to like fund all of that, right? Sean likes older homes with character that are a little bit of like fixer uppers. That's exciting to him. So we found a place that was like newly renovated, but has a lot of history. So it's an older building with like newer inside. So anyway, it had what we both wanted style wise, but we had no idea what the lease was going to be like. We were going to try to negotiate on price a little bit. And so once we found this place, I was like, this is it. We're moving into this place. This is going to come together. And then Sean was like, Lindsay, this isn't the place. It's going to fall through our fingers because there's no way that we could get that place in that like lease limit for 9 or 10 months at this price. Like this place is way too nice and is too perfect. Like it's too good to be true. So then I got to kind of walk him through what he had walked me through, where I was like, no, this is going to work out. This is going to work out. And he just kept being like, no, I don't think so. Like, I don't think this is going to work. And one magical thing at a time happened where I, reached out to the landlord and was like, okay, what about this? What about that? And it was like, yep, you can have that. Yep, you can have that. Yep, you can have that. Just check all of our boxes, to the point at the end where Sean and I looked at each other and we were like, we literally got every single thing that we wanted. Not one thing that we were calling in isn't the thing. So anyway, we moved in, but it's just kind of interesting where sometimes the door of opportunity comes to you, like someone offers you a job, but sometimes the door of opportunity is this feeling on the inside. And that's how it was for Sean and I, that we just on the inside, we were like, I think we're ready to move. We just looked at one another and we're like, yeah, let's move. Like now's the time. And then it ended up working out. And it's just so interesting that I believe that everything happens for a reason. So because this place was open, that is when we got the ping of like, it's time to move. So we found this place and we all found ourselves at the right time. But I think one thing that people can get hung up on is when you're on the right track or on the right path and those doubts start to come up, you can totally derail yourself. Like with Sean's example, not to single him out because we all do this, but this feeling of like, well, I can't have that because that would be too good to be true. Like that can't be possible for me. There's no way that that is real. I think that really stops us from experiencing things that really are so good.
That's right. I don't like that thing. It's too good to be true. No, it's so good. It is true.
Yeah.
Right. It's so good. It is true. It's not too good to be true. There are things that are just so perfectly wonderful. And when the universe aligns, it's an incredible feeling on just with even little things. Right.
Yeah.
That's why I don't like that when people say you can't have your cake and eat it too. Well, why not? If I can't have the cake, what am I going to do with it?
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have to eat the whole thing in one sitting, but I want the damn piece of cake, right?
100%.
So, yeah.
What's coming up for you as we're talking about this? I'm curious to know what's resonating with you as far as like, are there any doors of opportunity that feel like they're opening for you right now? Even if it doesn't make sense, like an energetic feeling or something maybe more concrete?
That is a very interesting question. I don't feel like there's anything really big, but I kind of have taken a step. So much has happened in the past 3 years for me, and I'm sure all of you out there. There's just been such an overwhelming time on so many levels that I'm not looking for this. I think I used to be looking for this huge thing, and now what I realize is just staying present, literally staying present in the moment. Trying to really be there is just the gift, right? So that's what's resonating to me. And because and I do also feel like we're talking about doors, and I'm going to go ahead and bring this back because I think it's fascinating. And doors, what do doors represent?
Windows of opportunity.
Okay. Well, now we all know the revolving door, right? And sometimes I feel like that I'm in with me, that I'm in that space where it's, and I don't know if you ever did this when you were little, but my brother and I got a big kick out of it. When you're in one of those revolving doors, it's going around and around and around.
Oh yeah.
Not very cool for the other people in it. But I just talking about our little metaphors, I kind of feel like in some things in my life, I'm in a bit of a revolving door situation and I need to step out.
That's so powerful.
Yeah, because I'm not 5 years old anymore. And don't need to keep going on the merry-go-round.
That's so huge.
Yeah. There's some things to let go of, and that's talking about the push pull and the letting. So I think it's all about letting go too. As you know, we're deciding a lot of things in life, which are just, and I had to go through and just purge a bunch. I didn't want to do it. I had been avoiding it because for me, if I can't see it, it's okay.
Out of sight,
I can close up the cabinet. If the cabinet looks shiny and good on the outside, I'm great. On the inside, it is like a hot tornado mess, and it drives my husband nuts. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to pull open those doors.
And you're speaking literally in this case, right?
I'm speaking literally in this case. I'm going to pull open the doors of that corner cabinet, and I'm going to look at this mess, and I'm going to go through every single thing. And I'm not kidding you. I don't know what I've been hanging on to. Well, I do, because I just come in, you shove it in, and then life goes on. I threw out so much stuff, and it felt so lighten the load, and some of the stuff that is in really great, I gave some, I'm donating it because I would never donate anything that's not in awesome condition, but it's just not serving me anymore, but it could possibly serve somebody else. Awesome. Yeah. Right? Push. That's the push. And pushing myself to do things that I don't want to do.
Definitely. It's so interesting with decluttering spaces, because if everything is energy, then the more stuff, like physical stuff you have in your space, the more energy is like hanging around you. So when you are literally getting stuff out of your home or decluttering or even organizing, you have more space. You have more openness. So that's true in the physical, tangible sense, but also, again, in the metaphorical sense, it's the same way. And I feel like sometimes when we're in those phases of life or certain dynamics where we're in a bit of a revolving door situation, there's all this energy around us, and we're just like cycling around it and around it and around it, instead of being like, okay, I either need to remove myself from that energy, or I need to take that energy and like organize it and push it, or like move it through, which is an interesting process. I think all of us have a very different emotional connection to letting things go. For some people, I think it feels really great, almost maybe even to a detriment, where we're like constantly letting things go instead of letting things linger around, like relationships, for example. Like I have friends that feel much more comfortable casually dating and moving from relationship to relationship. And it's actually that staying with someone that feels more of like the scary thing. Whereas I have other friends that would prefer to, like with your corner cabinet, right? Like would rather have all of that stuff kind of around them, and the actual letting go feels scarier. So I think that process is different for everybody, but ultimately it is necessary for us to walk through those new doors of opportunity, or instead of getting caught in the revolving door. In order to move on, we do have to let something go in order to begin something new. Yeah. And that's just kind of a law of,
and that's a push pull in ourselves. Like it's like, okay, pull, it's pulling on my heart, it's pushing, it's back, it's forth, it's push, pull, push, pull, push, pull. And then finally, when you make the decision, that is the key too, I think, is making the decision. Is saying, okay, this is, because the push pull is where the level of discomfort is. Once you know whether to push or pull, the level of discomfort is gone.
Yeah. One other way that I feel called to talk about this is because when that push-pull energy sometimes makes me feel like I'm like getting whiplash, like always going to one thing or the other. So sometimes an easier way to think about it, and this is the language I use with myself, is I think of life as a big old spiral. And so sometimes we're in an external rotation, that would be the push, where for me, the external rotation is like, I want to share my gifts with the world. I want to connect with other people. I want to take action. I want to move forward. I want to get ahead. I want to make decisions. That's the external rotation. And then there's the internal rotation, which is I want to be in my own energy. I'd like to get quiet. I want to be still. I want to do less. I want to be less. I just want to calm. And so it's this opening and closing, or you can think about it as the push and the pull, the moving forward and going backward.
Well, look at the ocean.
Right. Yeah, like waves, totally. I think for me, it's sometimes helpful though to, instead of think of the push and pull like a seesaw, or a teeter totter, or a scale, it's easier for me to think about it as this circular path where we're kind of going through these cycles, and we're always going to get back around. Like if you're in an external rotation, you're going to go into an internal rotation, and then you're going to go back out again and in again and out again and in again. And that's part of the dance of life. And it's really powerful when you can see life that way, because similar with the ocean analogy, you can be in an ebb or you can be in a flow. The ebb is when the ocean pulls backwards. The flow is when it's moving forward. So anytime you're in an ebb and you feel like you're being pulled backwards, you can be excited because you know that the flow is getting ready to happen. And when you're in a flow, you can feel excited that things will get a little bit less crazy and maybe you'll get to pull back and it'll be an ebb, or, either way, it keeps you humble. It keeps your perspective open that we're constantly in flux. We're constantly changing and shifting. We're constantly evolving and having new beginnings, whether we want them or not. Life will bring those new beginnings and ultimately transitions to our doorstep to move through. And we keep discovering who we are with every rotation, with every ebb, with every flow, with every push, with every pull. Through every cycle, we learn more about ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, I love the nature analogy, and you and I've talked so much about this because we're both big, huge nature fans. I find it so cathartic and calming in the push pull. And so, we've been spending a lot of time out east, which is just, and we are on the water, on the bay. But so with all so we do get, like last week, there was definitely, from the remnants of the hurricane, it was just really a lot of whitecaps, and it's not like the total tidal, but TIDAL, but there is some in and out. And then the next day, it just was like glass, and the swans came out, and I thought, that's where I want to stay. That's where I want my physical and emotional state to be. Now, it's not always going to stay that way, because without the other stuff, we wouldn't get to that place. But it was so calming and beautiful. And I thought, that's where I want my nervous system to be, right? Just
absolutely.
Well,
and it sounds like that's kind of what you've been working with recently, in your desire to stay present, be in the present moment, and that the gift is just being where you're at now instead of thinking about what's coming next all the time. I think that's
or what's in the past or what's in the future. I tend, and I'm guilty of it. I don't know if you guys out there, let us know if you are, because I'm full disclosure here. I have been so, I'm not even going to say guilty. I have, I'm, oh my gosh, I'm in the past or I'm in the future. I'm in the past, I'm in the future. And the fact is, the past is the past and the future is the future. So all we have is this. And I know that people say this, and it's really hard to do.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And again, I think it's because our brain.
We're back to the push-pull.
Yeah, totally. So true. I feel like our brain is, again, designed to look for patterns. So we're either examining things that have already happened in the past to study past patterns, or we're projecting those patterns from the past onto the future to try to protect ourselves and try and prepare for what's coming next. But if we're in the present, there's nothing we need to do. There's not like a pattern we need to solve. It's just existing. And I feel like that's why the present, they say the present is a gift. It's just like an actual physical present you'd unwrap with a bow, right?
Your presence is the present.
Right. But I feel like that is where joy exists, is that you can't really go back. I mean, you can remember when you experienced joy, but you can't experience joy in the past because it's already over, and you can't experience joy in the future because it hasn't happened yet. So the only place we can experience joy or really peace, I think, is here in the present. So it's interesting with the push and pull analogy, because something I've been working with, and it sounds like you've been working with this too, just in our own ways. But that being present is like finding the middle balance point in the middle of the scale or in the middle of the teeter totter. Like if you think of an actual, I just had a card. Okay, here we go. Perfect. I love that this card came for us today. So this is, you can see it a little bit better, but this is the Six of Pentacles. So in the scale, there are these two sides of the teeter totter, and then there's this balance point in the middle right here. I feel like being in the present moment is finding that balance point in the middle, where you're not rocking up and down and push and pulling and you're like on this crazy ride, but you can just kind of straddle in between the two. And you can feel subtle pushes and pulls, but it's not so like throwing your whole nervous system out of whack.
Yeah.
That's been something I've been focused on in my meditations recently and in my emotional world is how can I find a place of balance and stillness? And when crazy things in life come up, as they do, or certain situations either trigger me, whether it's from the future or the past, or I'm in one place or another, it's like, can I find my way back to the middle? And I think it's just something that our culture doesn't really like to teach. Like even in movies and TV show, it's like falling in love or like the most disappointing thing you've ever experienced to like the greatest successes. And like even the hero's journey in storytelling is often starting from a middle ground, having like a ups and downs, but then a really low, and then a really high. Even with like, I don't know, just the way falling in love is portrayed or success is portrayed. Like it's a lot of really big ups and downs. Even with social media, there's a lot of, or in our digital world, in our digital age, there's a lot of instant gratification of things. Like you expect that when you make a post, 100,000 people are going to see it and you're going to go viral and everyone's like chasing that kind of high instead of just creating for the joy of creating or even creating for you instead of creating for everybody else.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's that balance point in the middle. It's just this.
That's a push pull too.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like, are we just,
Yeah.
I mean, and we know that from being an artist, being a performer, being, it's like, I mean, obviously we do it because we love what we do, but we're not doing it in our living room. We go on stage because we want to go on stage and share the joy and get that feeling.
Yeah.
That reaction.
Yeah. Definitely. I think that's why for me, I'm working with the belief in myself that can it be both? Like in my creations, can it be for me first and foremost? And can it help others and benefit others as well? Instead of me creating for other people in a way that it's like, well, I don't really want to create this, but I'll do it for other people. It's like, no, I don't want to create something that I don't want to create. I want to create for me and believe that my story and my creation will benefit other people. And it might not be for everybody. I don't need to be for everybody, but I can trust that my voice, my mission, my art is for a specific person or specific group of people, and those people will find me. And so I don't know, there's that balance in everything I do now where I'm trying to have less of big pushes and pulls. And it's like, I can feel the subtlety of energy, but I don't need to kind of let it take me on a big old like roller coaster all the time. But there's grief in that too, because the roller coaster ride can be kind of fun and you can get really addicted to having a really high and a really low and getting super excited and then like feeling sad, So trying to get back to this like middle ground, and finding peace in the middle and balance, it can actually feel very foreign. It can feel a little bit like you don't want to be a robot either. You want to have the full human experience. So it's an interesting place to be in, but it sounds like that's something you've been trying to find too, or continue to find grounding back into, is just living in the present.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't want to be, because I am an empath, I am an HSP, but I also feel like it's important to just protect yourself. Like, I don't want to ever be, I know that I'll never get to that place where I become this callous, non-caring individual. That's just not who I am. But I do feel there's some things that I need to look at and say, hey, you know what? It's okay for me to feel that way. And it doesn't feel good for me to be in a relationship that's constantly hurting my feelings. Or that, and I read something that I thought was so interesting. It said, if you have to be the person that always has to be the bigger person, maybe you should stop hanging around with such small people.
Yeah.
Right. Not that anybody's small. We're all on our own journey and our own path. And I don't know what chapter anybody, is in or whatever. And I have compassion for it, but there's just times that it's also okay to say, this is not working.
Absolutely.
This revolving door is not working for me. I'm pushing, you're pulling, we're not syncing up. You're not reading my push. I'm not reading your pull.
And that right there is authenticity.
Yeah.
That's authenticity. That's being able to say, I honor your journey, but I'm not in control of your journey. So I'm only in control of mine. So I honor where you're at, but I'm going to set my boundaries and establish my control over how I feel, because
Right.
our emotions ultimately are our responsibility. And I think as empaths, we can get really lost in feeling the feelings of everybody else and feeling the
Yeah.
feelings of the world. But sometimes it's really important to remember, like, wait a minute, to a certain degree, I do have not control always over my emotions, but I do have responsibility over them.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. And like I said, there's so few things that we can control, really. And
Absolutely.
and I mean, look at the world around us. Come on. Like, hey, it's a wild ride out there. So let's not kid ourselves that we can control any of that.
Yeah.
The only thing we can try and master is our emotions, how we feel, how we react to certain things, what we take in. And I know we just talked earlier about something that had an experience that you had that was just, a lot. And we can say, that's not going to work for me. And that's okay. That's okay. And I hope you guys, if out there listening, know that it's okay to say, it's okay. It's okay to give yourself permission to say, this isn't working for me.
Absolutely.
Right. I wish you well. No harm, no foul. This doesn't feel good to me. This is not serving me anymore.
Yeah. Absolutely.
The push pull is not serving me anymore. Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. When you're thinking about that, how does that feel in your body?
Really calming. I just got I was like, wow. I just got really, I just had this wave of, because I said it to myself. I'm so great about saying it to other people. But now that I just gave myself permission to say that, wow.
I felt that shift with you. I saw it happen. It's so
Yeah.
beautiful. And that is that balance point in the middle. That's not being in the push or the pull. That's just being an acceptance of what is and not
Makes me
needing
cry.
not needing to change it. Yeah, it's beautiful because there's truth there. And I feel like nothing makes me cry more than the truth. When you feel a deep, deep truth you've been searching for, but our mind can kind of get in the way. It's sort of like, it's going back to what we were just saying with the door analogy, right? It's not seeing the sign and just trying to force it in your direction instead of being like, okay, I accept this for what it is, and I'm gonna move forward now. It's that permission to move forward and that openness that's just so transformative. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that moment with us, Maggie.
Wow. Thank you.
And I'm excited to hear too. Please share with us in the comments how this episode is resonating with you. If there are certain doors of opportunity that you feel like you're being called to move towards right now, or maybe you're in the middle of a push-pull situation and there's something that we're sharing here that's resonating in a deep way. Because I always know that anyone that finds this video and has found this conversation, especially if you've been listening for this long, is not by accident. It's because you're meant to share this moment with us. And I know I'm taking a lot away from this episode today, and I'm sure you are too, Maggie. But let's support one another here as a community and share what this is like, because sometimes when we're moving through those push and pulls, we can feel a lot of pressure to figure it out or to do something specific. And sometimes for me, when I feel all that pressure, I don't know about everybody else, but I can tend to feel really alone in it because I'm just feeling all that pressure by myself. So there's a lot of healing and community and sharing. It's one of the reasons why we make this podcast and do what we do, is so we can kind of bring these things to light and celebrate the journey of being human together. So please share down in the comments if this is resonating with you. We'd love to support you there. And I just feel called to ask before we wrap up, is there anything else you feel inclined to add, Maggie? Or is there anything you want to leave everyone with today?
Oh, I just think I'd just like to say that we're just thinking about all of you and sending tons of love out in the world and light, and just, I would say, stay present. Just stay present. And that's, again, that's me telling myself to stay present. So I'm not telling you guys what to do, talking to myself. What about you, Linz? Do you have any words of wisdom to wrap up?
I just feel called to say that sometimes the push and pull is letting us know that there's a door of opportunity open, and it's asking us and helping to show us actually what needs to be released so that we can fully walk through that door of opportunity. So if you're in a push and pull moment, maybe take a second to think about what door of opportunity could be opening up for you. And what do you feel called to release on your way to that new beginning? Even if it doesn't make sense, even if it's a little abstract, just trust where your intuition is calling you to go towards. Because this is what I've been working with a lot in my own life recently.
Yeah.
And it's just been incredibly insightful. So I trust that you and I aren't the only ones moving through this. I know that this,
I know we're not.
it's meant to reach. So,
and I would
we
also
love
tell
you.
everybody to stay comfortable in the discomfort. It's okay.
Yeah, you're safe.
All
So
right.
important. Well, we love you all so much. Thank you for joining us today. We can't wait to see you for the next episode. And Maggie, thanks for joining me. I love you.
Thank you. Love you.